joins in with details on this. Archana, go ahead.
Well, yes, Ekta. On a question by an analyst whether they would meet their 15 to 16% sales growth guidance in FY16, the company management did mention that they will slightly fall short on that guidance because of delays in approvals. And they also indicated this would largely be driven by the US market, where the approvals have been slowing down. And they said that the Q1 and Q2 growth in the US will be subdued, like what we've seen also in Q4, and that subdued growth will continue. The approvals will only start picking up towards the end of the year, and some of the bigger key approvals that they named that could help them scale through would be Glumetza, Velcol, azithromycin, and Nexium. That is, all are expected towards the end of this fiscal, and that will add on to the growth for FY17. So in FY16, they may fall short on the 15 to 16% guidance, but they said they're pretty confident of a 20% plus sales growth in FY17, fueled by all the 4 approvals that I spoke about. They also have an FTF on Glumetza, so that could add some value onto the sales growth in the US market and overall for Lupin. But definitely for FY16, it would be a short miss. They also indicated that their target of reaching a $4 billion size organically by FY18 could be, they could be falling short on that as well, and they may need M&A to achieve it. But again, they expect the new acquisition, Gavis, to help them achieve some bit of US growth. They have about 65 filings, and every year they expect about 20 approvals from Gavis to flow in. And by in the next 3 years, they hope about to reach up to about $300 million of revenues from Gavis alone. So Gavis acquisition would help them in some way, but yes, the headwinds as far as approvals in the US market will continue to haunt them for a couple of quarters.
Okay, Archana, thanks very much for that. Well, additional news points that I was talking to analysts about, they did mention that the ANDA pipeline or the generics pipeline in terms of filings of new drugs from Gavis is worth around 300 million, which they've already got with the US FDA. So they were expecting maybe a higher valuation of the amount of drugs that could eventually get approval from this company that they've acquired. So there was a little bit of discomfort coming in there. And interestingly, Nigel, we started off the week with Sun Pharma and the guidance cut for FY16, and we're ending it with Lupin. And these two companies are the stalwarts of the nifty space from the pharma sector. And it's disappointing to see that the FY16 numbers are not going to look that good.
Ekta, over the last few years, you were tracking pharma very closely, but I used to always track the kind of gains people used to make in terms of both these two stocks. Sun Pharma as well as Lupin, they should give you big returns. Now, in this week itself, Sun Pharma is down 12%, and Lupin, after today's cut, putting the 3.5% cut, we're down 15.5%. So clearly, in fact, some of those investors have been caught on the wrong side. They would have been hoping they would have sold last week or maybe last Friday, but unfortunately, in fact, that's the market for you.
But it's not across the board for the pharma space. If you look at Dr. Reddy's, that one's doing quite well. We spoke to a very small pharma company today in comparison to these. Granules India, which has already given 30% return. Markson's Pharma also, which has done well in broader markets. So all of these stocks are, and in fact, Glenmark actually is a turnaround story in terms of receiving ANDA approvals this year. But I could go on and on. Let's start the show.
All right, then let's start.